Hello, I'm an atheist.
Hi, I'm a Christian.
What's the difference between God and Santa?
There's nothing about faith when it comes to Santa. The two cannot be compared.
They are exactly the same concept for different age groups.
How so?
Santa lives at the North Pole, and God lives in heaven. Both equally difficult places for the majority of living beings to get to.
That makes no difference, because Santa eventually is revealed to be pretend, and as people get older and smarter, they no longer believe in him.
God is also revealed to be fake, and as people get educated and smarter, they no longer believe in God.
Santa has elves to boss around.
God has angels to boss around.
Santa keeps tabs on who's naughty or nice.
God apparently keeps tabs on who is gay or straight.
Santa will give you coal if you've been naughty.
God lights the coal on fire and makes you burn in it eternally if you've been naughty, instilling the fear of punishment for the actions you're being judged for.
Santa has 8 tiny reindeers and a sleigh which he rides around the world in one night to deliver presents.
God has 7 seals and 4 horsemen, which ride around the world to deliver divine justice.
Santa comes in many forms, with many rich traditions and stories behind him, that people tend to take and pass on depending on geographical and social upbringing.
God comes in many forms, with many rich traditions and stories behind him, that people tend to take and pass on, depending on geographical and social upbringing.
Santa comes from an exaggerated story about a possibly real person.
God comes entirely from myths, to explain previously unexplainable natural phenomena, and the few possibly real historical figures connected with God have also been greatly exaggerated.
Santa takes requests for presents and sometimes gives them and sometimes doesn't.
God takes prayers for anything, and sometimes grants them and sometimes doesn't. The psychological theory of random positive reinforcement comes to mind here. I wonder why?
Santa was made up by parents to keep kids in line by the vague promise of reward for being good and threat of punishment for being bad on a yearly basis.
God was made up by politicians and clergy to keep the general populace in line by the vague promise of reward for being good and punishment for being bad over a lifetime.
Santa is not real. One would be hard-pressed to find a normal, rational adult who would argue this point.
God is not real. It is very easy to find otherwise normal, rational adults who will argue this point to the death.
Finally, a difference between God and Santa.
No, just a difference in people's perception towards the two. As people get older, they no longer believe in Santa. However, they still believe in God. They hang on to their belief like a drowning man on a life preserver, even when he's finally washed up on solid ground. One more difference between the two is that Santa, to my knowledge, has never caused people to murder each other for not believing in Santa, or for believing in the wrong Santa. God has, if one must insist that he exists, allowed countless atrocities from murder to genocide and even infanticide to be carried out in his name throughout recorded history, for either not believing in God or believing in the wrong God.